a few minutes ago showing a disturbing presentation of the president. I'm not saying that it's a disturbing presentation as if she's made it up. No, this is something that actually happened. Listen.
Line is still unclear as to what this could look like. And of course, the question still stands as to why this is happening. As the president was in front of reporters today, for the first time in front of reporters, I should note, since he launched this attack and authorized it over the weekend from his Mar-a-Lago club in Florida, he was hosting a Medal of Honor ceremony at the White House today, where he gave that update on Iran that we just shared with you, what his objectives are. And then at one point, he pivoted from the war in Iran to White House construction.
We have a lot of great service members here with us too in this beautiful building, isn't it? Beautiful. We're adding on to the building a little bit. We're improving the building. See that nice drape? When that comes down right now, you see a very, very deep hole. But in about a year and a half from now, you're going to see a very, very beautiful building. And there's your entrance to it right there. In fact, it looks so nice, I think I'll save money on the doors because it can't get more beautiful than that. I picked those drapes in my first term. I always like gold, but I think we can save a lot of money. I just saved curtains, but and it'll be spectacular. It'll be the most beautiful ballroom. I believe it because I built many a ballroom. I believe it's going to be the most beautiful ballroom anywhere in the world.
As we continue to monitor the latest out of the Middle East tonight, I want to bring in the Democratic Senator Chris Murphy of Connecticut, who is also a member of the Foreign Relations Committee. And Senator, obviously we're tracking what is happening on the ground tonight. But in terms of overall, for people who are sitting at home and watching and wondering what is happening here, is it clear to you, based on what we've heard from the administration, why the United States is at war with Iran right now?
Of course it's not clear. I mean, this is incompetent and ham-handed leadership. They all have different reasons for attacking Iran. I guess what I think is that it's just so disgusting to listen to the President of the United States be waxing and waning poetically about the drapes that he's buying. Well, there are 6 Americans who are dead. There are 6 American families who are about to bury their children because of a war of choice that no one in this country wanted, an illegal war. I mean, you also played this clip of Secretary Hegseth saying that the president has all the latitude he needs in order to carry out a conflict with no end. The disdain that these people have for the Constitution, for the idea that it's only the people that consent to war, is just absolutely shocking. So we've heard no coherent explanation. We've heard no goals for what Iran is supposed to look like at the end of this mission. And the region is spiraling out of control. American casualties are mounting. Billions of dollars in taxpayer money is being misspent. This is a growing crisis of incoherence and incompetence at the White House.
Both Secretary Hegseth and Vice President Vance have said the president is not going to get entangled in some never-ending war the last 20 years. Do you trust those assurances that you've heard from them?
No, absolutely not. I mean, listen, these guys don't know what they're doing. I mean, these are amateurs. Pete Hegseth is a talk show host who's running the Department of Defense right now. He has no concept of how to carry out a targeted attack, never mind a complicated war in the Middle East. Here's the essential problem. There's only 2 options here. Either you are going to just do airstrikes, or you're going to launch a ground invasion. There is zero experience, zero history of a airstrike campaign alone toppling a dictatorship and transitioning a country to democracy. We know that airstrikes do not knock out Iran's nuclear capability. Why? Because we did airstrikes last year. President Trump lied to the American public, said it obliterated Iran's nuclear program, and we come to find out just 2 weeks ago that, in fact, they're back to a week away from a nuclear program. The other option is a ground invasion, which, of course, no one in this country wants, would fail, would cause not dozens of Americans to die, but thousands of Americans to die. No option here gets the president what he is saying he wants, which is regime change, a democracy, the obliteration of their nuclear program, and their missiles. This is going to be a disaster. None of those goals, even as they change, are going to be accomplished here. All that's going to happen is lots of Americans are going to die, and billions of our dollars are going to be wasted.
Well, and I should note Vance and Hegseth are obviously both veterans, but you're saying you don't think all of the if the objectives are just the ones the president himself laid out today, not minding all the other ones that we've heard from others who have highlighted different ones. You're saying that you don't think the president that can be achieved in 4 to 5 weeks, which is the timeline he gave today.
The objectives that they have laid out, which primarily have been regime change and getting rid of their weapons systems, cannot be achieved in 4 days, 4 months, or 4 years. And then, as you noted, we heard this shocking new explanation out of the blue today that, in fact, our objectives were simply to defend America. This wasn't an offensive war, it was a purely defensive war. I mean, that's ridiculous. The idea that Benjamin Netanyahu could decide where America goes to war, that we would just follow an ally into a war of choice that puts hundreds of Americans' lives, if not thousands of Americans' lives at risk, should be bone-chilling to Americans. So none of these explanations make sense. None of them are achievable.
Well, and just to be clear, that was Senator Rubio came out of that briefing on Capitol Hill today and said basically that it was absolutely an imminent threat was the phrase that he used, because they believed Iran would strike at U.S. bases in the region if Israel struck Iran. You're saying that doesn't meet your definition of the word imminent.
Well, of course it doesn't. And by the way, the War Powers Act doesn't allow the president to take action without authorization from Congress, even in the face of an imminent threat. But imminent doesn't mean there's a possibility that if another country launches attack against their neighbor, that we might be stuck in the crossfire. That is always a possibility when two countries are going to war. That doesn't give the president the power to carry out a war, an open-ended war, without any authorization of Congress. That's absolutely clear.
The president said tonight that Democrats, of which you are one, are only complaining, he said, because if I did it, you're only complaining because he did it. And he said that if he didn't do it, Democrats would be screaming, why didn't Trump attack Iran? He should have done it immediately. What is your reaction to the president's argument there?
Well, there were no Democrats cheerleading for Joe Biden to attack Iran. I can speak for myself. I was openly and regularly critical of both President Obama and President Biden when I didn't think that they were coming to Congress for authorization. Many of us have been pretty consistent about this for a long time. We thought that war with Iran would spill over very quickly into the region. Tonight we're learning that we're evacuating Americans from 14 different countries in the region. We believe that it would only result in even harder line leadership running that country. That's exactly what seems to be happening right now. And we thought it would end up in a lot of Americans being killed. And as we speak, there are half a dozen families burying their dead children, and there are likely going to be dozens more of these funerals coming up. That's been the view of most Democrats consistently, whether a Democrat or a Republican is in the White House.
Yeah,
Sad stuff.
I feel for those families tonight.
Sad stuff.
Those brave service members. Senator Chris Murphy, thank you for joining us to talk about this tonight.
Thank you.
Sad stuff, folks. Subscribe to Zenny62 on YouTube and bookmark ZennyReport.com.